You don't realize you're being drained. Not at first. It starts with admiration. She looks at you like you're rare, like you're the only man in the world who understands her. And for a moment, you believe it. You feel chosen. But what you don't see, what most men never see until it's too late, is that admiration was never love. It was a hook. And by the time you feel the pain, you're already attached. You're already invested. You're already trying to fix something that was never meant to be whole. Listen carefully, because this might be the truth no one has ever told you. A narcissistic woman doesn't break you all at once. She does it slowly, strategically, almost invisibly. And if you don't understand how a stoic man responds to this, you won't just lose the relationship. You might lose yourself. There was a man, let's call him Daniel. Daniel was disciplined, focused, calm. The kind of man who didn't chase noise, he built his life in silence. When he met her, she was everything he wasn't. Loud. Emotional. Intense. Magnetic. She told him things no one had ever said to him before. You're different. You're not like other men. I feel safe with you. And just like that, his guard dropped. At first, everything felt perfect. She admired his strength. She leaned on him. She praised his calm nature. But slowly, something changed. The same woman who once admired his silence started calling him emotionally distant. The same woman who said he was strong began to accuse him of not caring. The same woman who once lifted him up started tearing him down. And Daniel, like many men, tried to fix it. He spoke more. He explained himself. He tried to be more expressive, more present, more everything. But the more he gave, the less it seemed to matter. This is where most men get trapped. Because they think, if I just try harder, she'll understand. If I love her better, she'll change. If I prove myself, this will go back to how it was. But here's the brutal truth. It was never real to begin with. That perfect beginning was a carefully designed illusion. A stoic man understands something that most people ignore. You cannot control how someone treats you. But you can control how long you tolerate it. And that changes everything. Daniel didn't wake up one day and suddenly become strong. No. He broke first. There were nights he sat in silence, questioning everything. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Why does she treat me like this, after everything I've done? He replayed conversations in his head, over and over again, trying to find where he failed. That's the psychological trap. A narcissistic woman doesn't just hurt you. She makes you question your reality. One evening, after another argument that made no sense, Daniel sat alone. No noise. No distractions. Just silence. And for the first time, he didn't think about her. He thought about himself. Not who she said he was, but who he truly was before she entered his life. Calm. Grounded. Disciplined. That man was still there. Just buried under confusion and emotional manipulation. This is the turning point. Not anger. Not revenge. Not proving a point. Clarity. A stoic man doesn't fight chaos with chaos. He withdraws his energy. Because he understands something powerful. The moment you stop reacting, you stop feeding the problem. Daniel began to observe instead of react. When she criticized him, he stayed silent. When she tried to provoke him, he remained composed. When she twisted his words, he didn't defend himself endlessly. And something strange happened. She became more aggressive. More emotional. More unpredictable. Why? Because she was losing control. You see, narcissistic behavior feeds on reaction. Your anger. Your explanations. Your need to be understood. That's the fuel. And when a stoic man removes that fuel, the entire dynamic begins to collapse. But let's be honest, this isn't easy. Because you're not just walking away from a person. You're walking away from an emotional addiction. The highs. The lows. The intensity. It becomes a cycle your mind gets used to. Breaking that cycle feels like withdrawal. Daniel didn't just move on. He rebuilt himself. Piece by piece. He returned to discipline. Early mornings. Silence. Focus. He stopped checking his phone constantly. Stopped waiting for her messages. Stopped needing her validation. And slowly, something shifted. Not outside. But within. He realized something most men learn too late. Peace is more powerful than attachment. And once you experience real peace, you can never go back to emotional chaos. There's a story of another man. He stayed. He ignored the signs. He kept hoping she would change. Years passed. And instead of becoming stronger, he became smaller. Less confident. More anxious. Constantly seeking approval. By the time he realized the truth, he didn't recognize himself anymore. That's the cost of staying where you are not respected. Not just heartbreak, but identity loss. A stoic man chooses differently. He doesn't chase closure. He creates it. He doesn't wait for apologies. He accepts reality. And most importantly, he understands this. Not every connection is meant to be saved. Some are meant to teach you who you should never become. If you're listening to this right now, and something feels familiar, then this message is for you. You are not confused because you're weak. You're confused because you've been manipulated. But confusion is not your final state. Clarity is coming. And when it does, you will never tolerate what once broke you. Before we go deeper into how stoic men completely detach, rebuild, and come back stronger than ever, take a moment and ask yourself one question. Are you holding on to her? Or are you holding on to the version of her that never truly existed? If this message is opening your eyes, if you feel something shifting within you, then make sure you subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because what you're about to learn next will change the way you see relationships, forever. There's a moment. Quiet, almost invisible. When a man stops chasing answers. Not because he has them all, but because he finally understands something deeper. Some questions are designed to keep you trapped. Daniel reached that moment slowly. Not in a burst of strength, but through exhaustion. He was tired of explaining himself. Tired of defending his intentions. Tired of trying to be understood by someone who had already decided not to understand him. And that's when it clicked. He wasn't in a relationship. He was in a loop. A loop where every conversation led nowhere. Every effort was dismissed. Every attempt to fix things somehow made things worse. And the hardest truth? It was never meant to improve. Because narcissistic dynamics don't thrive on resolution. They thrive on control. There's a story about a man named Idris. Idris loved deeply. He believed in loyalty. He believed that patience could heal anything. When his partner began to withdraw affection, criticize him, and compare him to others, he didn't walk away. He leaned in. He tried harder. Bought gifts. Spent more time. Apologized even when he wasn't wrong. And for brief moments, it worked. She would soften. Smile again. Pull him close like nothing ever happened. But those moments never lasted. They were just enough to keep him from leaving. That's the illusion. Not constant pain, but intermittent reward. Just enough warmth to keep you frozen in the cold. A stoic man sees through this. Not immediately, but eventually. And when he does, he stops asking, "How do I fix her?" and starts asking, "Why am I staying?" That question is dangerous. Because it doesn't point outward. It points inward. Daniel began to notice patterns. Not her patterns, but his own. Why did he tolerate disrespect? Why did he feel the need to prove his worth? Why did her approval matter so much? These weren't questions about her anymore. They were questions about him. This is where real power begins. Not when you control the situation, but when you understand yourself within it. A stoic man doesn't just detach from the person. He detaches from the need. The need to be validated. The need to be chosen. The need to win the relationship. Because he realizes something most people never do. The moment you need someone to treat you right, you've already given away your power. So how does he take it back? Not through confrontation. Not through revenge. But through withdrawal. And not the emotional kind that seeks attention, but the silent kind that seeks peace. Daniel stopped reacting completely. Not to punish her, but to protect himself. When she sent long messages trying to provoke him, he didn't respond immediately. When she tried to pull him into arguments, he refused to engage. When she accused him of things that weren't true, he didn't rush to defend himself anymore. At first, it felt unnatural. Like he was losing. Like he was letting her win. But over time, he realized something powerful. You don't win toxic games by playing better. You win by not playing at all. And that's when the shift happened. She noticed. Of course she did. The same man who once reacted, explained, chased, was now calm. Unavailable. Unbothered. And suddenly, she started doing what he used to do. Reaching out more. Trying to get his attention. Questioning his silence. But here's what most men get wrong in this moment. They go back. The moment they feel that pull again. They think. Maybe she's changed. Maybe this time will be different. But a stoic man doesn't fall for recycled patterns. Because he understands. Temporary change is not transformation. Daniel didn't go back. Not because he didn't feel anything. But because he finally valued his peace more than his attachment. There's another short story. A man once asked a philosopher, "How do I know when it's time to leave someone I love?" The philosopher replied, "When staying costs you your self-respect. That's the line. Not love. Not history. Not potential. Self-respect." A stoic man protects that above everything. Because once you lose it, everything else begins to fall apart. Daniel rebuilt himself in silence. No announcements. No explanations. He focused on his body. His mind. His purpose. He started waking up earlier. Training harder. Thinking clearer. He replaced emotional chaos with structured discipline. And something unexpected happened. He didn't just heal. He evolved. The version of him that once tolerated confusion no longer existed. The man who needed validation was gone. In his place stood someone grounded, centered, unshakable. And here's the part most people don't talk about. When you truly detach, you stop being attracted to what once destroyed you. It's not forced. It's natural. Because your standards have changed. Your mindset has shifted. Your identity has evolved. The same behaviors that once pulled you in now repel you. The same words that once confused you now sound empty. That's growth. Not just moving on, but becoming someone who would never go back. If you're still in it, still questioning, still hoping things will go back to how they were, understand this. You're not holding on to love. You're holding on to familiarity. And familiarity can be dangerous when it's tied to pain. But here's the good news. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. The moment you see the pattern, you are no longer fully controlled by it. And step by step, choice by choice, you begin to take your power back. In the next part, we're going deeper into complete emotional detachment. How Stoic men rebuild their identity after manipulation. And how they become so strong internally that nothing like this ever touches them again. If this is speaking to you, if you feel something waking up inside you, then subscribe to the Stoic path. Because what comes next is not just healing. It's transformation. Final transformation. There comes a point. Not loud, not dramatic. Where a man finally stops looking back. Not because the memories disappear, but because they no longer control him. Daniel reached that point on an ordinary morning. No message from her. No apology. No closure. Just silence. But for the first time, that silence didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. And that's when he understood something most men never realize. Closure is not something you receive. It's something you decide. For months, he had been waiting. Waiting for her to admit what she did. Waiting for her to explain the confusion. Waiting for some final conversation that would make everything make sense. But the truth was, even if she gave him all the answers, it wouldn't change what he went through. So instead of waiting, he closed the door himself. This is where most men struggle. Because detachment is not just physical distance. It's emotional independence. You can block someone, delete their number, avoid their presence, and still be mentally chained to them. Still replaying moments. Still imagining conversations. Still feeling that pull. A Stoic man understands this deeply. So he doesn't just remove the person. He removes the hold they have on his mind. Daniel started with awareness. Every time his mind drifted back to her, he didn't fight it. He observed it. He noticed the patterns. Not memories of pain, but memories of the good times. The laughter. The connection. The perfect moments. And that's when it hit him. His mind wasn't addicted to the truth. It was addicted to selective memory. Because the mind does something dangerous after emotional chaos. It edits reality. It highlights the good. Softens the bad. And creates a version of the past that feels worth returning to. But a Stoic man doesn't romanticize what broke him. He remembers it fully. Daniel forced himself to recall everything. Not just the smiles. But the confusion. Not just the affection. But the manipulation. Not just the connection. But the cost. And slowly, the illusion lost its power. There's a story of a man who escaped a burning house. At first, all he could think about was what he lost inside. His belongings. His memories. He felt the urge to run back in. But then someone asked him, "Are you missing the house? Or forgetting the fire?" That question changes everything. Because many men don't miss the person. They forget the damage. Daniel stopped forgetting. And that's when detachment became real. But detachment alone is not enough. Because when you remove something that consumed your time, your energy, your emotions, you create space. And space, if not filled correctly, will pull you back into old patterns. So Daniel didn't just let go. He rebuilt. Not for her. Not to prove anything. But for himself. He returned to discipline. Early mornings became sacred. No distractions. No noise. Just him, and his thoughts. At first, it was uncomfortable. Because without the chaos, he had to face himself. No emotional highs. No distractions. Just truth. And that's where real growth begins. He started small. Waking up on time. Training his body. Controlling his impulses. Because a stoic man understands something powerful. If you can't control yourself, you will always be controlled by others. Each day, he became more grounded. More focused. More aware. He stopped seeking validation. Not because he didn't want connection, but because he no longer needed approval to feel complete. There's a difference. And that difference is everything. One evening, Daniel ran into her again. Unexpected. No preparation. No warning. She looked the same. Familiar. Almost comforting. For a brief moment, the past tried to return. But something was different this time. He wasn't the same man. She spoke. Tried to reconnect. Used the same tone. The same energy. The same subtle pull. But it didn't work. Not because she changed. But because he did. He listened, calmly. No anger. No bitterness. Just awareness. And then he did something simple. He walked away. No explanation. No argument. No emotional reaction. Just quiet strength. That's the final stage. Not needing to prove anything. Not needing to win. Not needing closure from someone who never gave it. Just moving forward. With clarity. There's another story. A man spent years chasing someone who never truly valued him. When he finally walked away, people asked him, "Don't you miss her?" He replied, "I miss who I was when I thought she loved me." That's the truth most men avoid. Because what hurts is not just losing the person. It's losing the version of yourself that believed in something that wasn't real. But here's the powerful part. You can rebuild that version. Stronger. Wiser. Unbreakable. Daniel didn't just recover. He transformed. He became a man who doesn't chase attention. Doesn't tolerate disrespect. Doesn't get pulled into emotional chaos. A man who chooses peace. Over intensity. Clarity. Over confusion. Purpose. Over distraction. And once you become that man, you don't attract the same situations anymore. Because your standards change. Your energy changes. Your decisions change. You no longer entertain what once entertained you. That's the real victory. Not getting over her. Not proving her wrong. But becoming someone who would never be trapped like that again. If you're still healing. Still processing. Still finding your way back to yourself. Understand this. You are not starting over. You are rebuilding with experience. And that gives you an advantage most people don't have. Take your time. Stay disciplined. Stay aware. Because one day, you'll wake up and realize something quietly powerful. It no longer hurts. Not because you forgot, but because you grew. And when that day comes, you won't need answers. You won't need closure. You won't even need to look back. You'll just move forward. As a man who has mastered himself. If this message resonated with you, if you felt the shift, if you're ready to become that version of yourself, then subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because this isn't just about relationships. It's about mastering your mind, your emotions, and your life. And once you do that, nothing, and no one, will ever have that kind of power over you. There's a level most men never reach. Not because they can't, but because they stop too early. They heal just enough to function again, but not enough to transform. They move on, but not forward. They let go of the person, but keep the same mindset that attracted the situation in the first place. And that's why history repeats itself. Different face. Same pattern. A stoic man doesn't make that mistake. Because he understands something most people ignore. Your experiences don't define your future. Your standards do. After Daniel walked away, after the silence settled, after the pain lost its grip, he didn't rush back into another connection. He didn't seek distraction. He didn't try to replace what he lost. He studied himself. Not in a surface-level way, but deeply, brutally honest. He asked questions most men avoid. What did I ignore? Where did I abandon my boundaries? Why did I stay past the point of clarity? And the answers weren't comfortable. Because growth doesn't come from blaming others. It comes from understanding your role without losing your self-respect. Daniel realized something powerful. He wasn't weak. But he was unguarded. He believed that being patient meant tolerating everything. He believed that understanding someone meant excusing their behavior. He believed that love required endurance, no matter the cost. And that belief almost cost him himself. So he rewrote it. A stoic man doesn't confuse patience with tolerance. He doesn't confuse empathy with self-sacrifice. He doesn't confuse love with suffering. And once those lines are clear, everything changes. This is where the attraction shift begins. Because attraction is not just about who you meet. It's about what you allow. Daniel noticed something subtle over time. The type of women who once intrigued him no longer held the same power. The intensity, the unpredictability, the emotional highs and lows. They didn't feel exciting anymore. They felt exhausting. That's evolution. Because when your inner world becomes stable, chaos stops being attractive. There's a story of a man who spent years chasing storms. He thought the lightning was passion. The thunder was connection. Until one day, he experienced calm waters. No noise. No confusion. No emotional turbulence. At first, it felt unfamiliar. Even boring. But then he realized. This is what peace feels like. And once you experience real peace, you stop mistaking chaos for love. Daniel reached that point. Now, when he met someone new, he didn't look for intensity. He looked for consistency. Not how strongly she spoke, but how steadily she showed up. Not how quickly she attached, but how naturally things flowed. Because a stoic man doesn't rush connection. He observes it. He watches how she responds to boundaries. How she handles disagreement. How she treats him when there's nothing to gain. Because he understands. Anyone can be impressive in the beginning. Character is revealed over time. This is the difference between a man who has learned and a man who is still repeating. One chases feelings. The other studies patterns. Daniel became patient in a new way. Not the kind that tolerates confusion, but the kind that filters it out. And that patience saved him. There was a moment when he met someone who reminded him of the past. Same charm. Same energy. Same subtle pull. The old version of him would have fallen for it instantly. But this time, he paused. He didn't ignore the feeling. But he didn't trust it blindly either. He observed. Listened. Watched the patterns unfold. And within a short time, he saw it. The same inconsistencies. The same subtle manipulations. The same emotional hooks. But instead of getting pulled in, he stepped back. No drama. No explanation. No emotional investment. Just quiet awareness. And distance. That's power. Not reacting. Not engaging. Not trying to prove anything. Just choosing differently. A stoic man doesn't avoid people out of fear. He selects them out of clarity. Because he understands something deeply. Who you allow into your life shapes the quality of your life. Daniel's circle became smaller. But stronger. His focus became sharper. His energy more protected. His standards, non-negotiable. And here's the part most people don't talk about. When you reach this level, you don't just attract differently. You become different. Your presence changes. Your energy shifts. Your silence speaks. You no longer seek attention. But attention finds you. Not because you're trying. But because you're grounded. There's a quiet confidence in a man who has faced emotional chaos. And chosen peace. He doesn't need to announce it. He doesn't need to prove it. It shows in how he moves. How he speaks. How he walks away from what doesn't align. That's the final transformation. Not becoming cold. Not becoming distant. But becoming clear. Clear about what you want. Clear about what you tolerate. Clear about who you are. And when you reach that clarity, you stop asking, will she choose me? And start asking, does she align with the life I'm building? That question alone will save you years of pain. If you followed this journey from the beginning, then you already feel it. The shift. The awareness. The quiet strength building within you. This is not just about overcoming one experience. It's about becoming a man who is no longer controlled by emotions, manipulation, or illusion. A man who stands firm. No matter who enters his life. And from this point forward, everything changes. If you're ready to go even deeper into mastery, discipline, and the mindset that separates average men from unshakable ones, then subscribe to the Stoic Path. Because this journey is just the beginning. End of part 4, continue.